Okay, let me start with how I went from the data set in this first lecture to SPSS. So what I did, if you go back to the lecture notes from January 24, 2022, I started with this data set. As you can see, this data set has a variety, a number of rows and a number of columns. Each row represents an individual person, like this is person 103, this is person 104, 105, and so on. So that's their identification number, their ID. I have their data on their biological sex, their age, their Hispanic ethnicity, race, whether or not they receive free or low-cost lunch, and other variables. Now, I'll get into those in a second. But so that's your data set. So I imported that into Excel, so you have access to the Excel file. Now, how do you import something like this? All you do is create a sheet in SPSS. In Excel. When you open Excel, it automatically opens a sheet. You can always add sheets. And what I would do then is, since this is a table, if you look at this little box here in the corner, I click that. Now I can't, look, if you have a Mac, I'm sorry, I don't have Macs. I don't deal with Macs, so you have to translate what I'm doing here to the Mac universe. Okay, I just use PCs because most people use PCs and it's much easier to do. All right, so I right click in here and hit copy, and then I go to any box in this, preferably the left hand corner, and click paste, and so that's how I got this data set. You see, so it's this, these two are equivalent. All right. Now I modified them a little bit because of the nature of SPSS. I just did a couple things here, but these are essentially the same. Like for instance, I got rid of all these lines and I put dots in where they're missing data points. Any place that's empty means this individual 1008 did not have data on no 1, no 2, no 3 for whatever reason. Perhaps he or she just skipped it or forgot or wasn't paying attention. We don't have age data on 115. So let's go back to the sheet that you have. So you have this sheet. Okay, so you could put dots in there, but SPSS will automatically put dots in there. This is the same data set. Like I said, I made modifications. By the way, you'll see that it says alcohol _1. In SPSS, you cannot have any spaces for variable names. So that instead of spaces, in lieu of spaces, we have the underscore. Okay, so like here I don't have any spaces. All right, that's number one. So this is your data set. Some of you may be thinking, well, what do those variables mean? Well, on the first lecture, I told you about the code sheet. No data set is ever complete without a code sheet. If you ever get an assignment to work for somebody to do any kind of analysis and they don't give you a code sheet, that's terrible. Because I have no idea what 1 and 0 mean for biological sex. This is a code sheet. Now in a professional world, you wouldn't get variable level. This is for me to you so you can understand what's going on. So we link the survey items to the variable name, to the variable label. So you're going to use this information to complete the task. To the variable value labels, to the value. So you have everything you need here to complete the task. Every single thing you need here, everything you need is here with the level of the variables, nominal, scale, ordinal. Remember, in SPSS, scale is the same as a continuous variable / quantitative. Continuous and quantitative are synonymous. You can say interval and ratio is also synonymous. This is ordinal and nominal. Okay, so you have every single thing you need here to complete the assignment. You'll notice that the scale variables do not have value labels because they're continuous variables, and obviously we don't have discrete values. Okay, so this is everything you need to know. You need nothing else but this. Okay, so look, these are what the variables represent. Okay, so let's go on now. Next step is to enter this data set into SPSS. So I have some code here, and I'll be talking about this in a second. So this is what your assignment should look like, and I gave you this as a way to start your assignment. So you need to build upon what I did. All right. So let's import the data. So I go to File, Open, Data. Now I need to find what this data set is. So I'm going to go to where I saved it on my computer. So now this isn't the same step as the get file command here, because this is assuming I have an SPSS file already. So I'm trying to import the data set here, and I'm going to look for where it is. It should be here somewhere. Maybe it'll be here, I hope. So it's not, oh, I need an Excel file actually. I forgot to mention this is an Excel file, so if you change this to Excel, let's see if I have this in here. Dataset 1, there it is. Okay, so let's make sure this is the same dataset. Dataset 1, okay. Now you'll notice that the data set names can have spaces. That's not the same as the variable name. So just to repeat what I did, I went to the location of my computer where this Excel file is stored. I had to change the file type to Excel. Like if I leave it as SPSS, look, it's empty because there are no SPSS files in that folder. So I hit the Excel file, and there it is. And let's see, open data set. So I want to open this one, highlight that, and it'll appear under file name. I hit open, and now I should get the data file. Now it's going to ask me some questions here, okay? It says read variable names into the first row. Yes, that's what we want. So if you look at the data set, the variable names are in the first row, so it asks me, do you want to use those as your variable names? And the answer is absolutely yes. Percent of values that determine data, that determine data type 95. Ignore hidden rows and columns, that's fine. I'm not worried about any of this other stuff. Now, just one thing, everything is appearing in sheet 1, A1, 0, whatever, sheet A1, right? If I had more sheets, like you saw, I started creating sheets here. Now, this data set here is not the same data set that I'm opening, right? Because I just created this. I didn't save this. If I overwrote the data set that I have in my OneDrive, it would show that I have 2 sheets. This one I'm just using independent of what we're doing. I haven't saved it yet, right? But if I had 2 sheets, it would give me the option to open sheet 1 or sheet 2. So there's only 1 sheet, so I hit OK. Really not much to do there. And so now it created this data file, right? Untitled data file. And it did the best it could to determine what I have. Like for instance, I know that these variables no1 through no5, based on what we looked at in the code sheet, are scale, so these are wrong. So we have to fix those. Okay, so this is where you should be when you start, okay? We need to save this file somewhere. So file, save as, I'm going to save it under, where am I going to save it? Let's just save it here, just data files. Create a new folder, data files, okay. And put it in there, and I'm going to call this, I think we called it, let me just check, dataset1.sav. Now everything has to match here, okay? Since I already gave you code, dataset1, okay? So and I don't have to add the .sav because I'm saving it as a data file. SPSS will automatically do that, and I save. All right. So you see I have dataset1.sav. Now I need to I need to know where it's saved, because if you go to my syntax, it says here address. So we need to replace the word address with the actual address of that file. Nothing else can change. You don't need to change anything else. Notice I have a single quotation mark on each side. Leave that alone, leave the period alone, everything. Okay, just replace the word address. Leave that slash over there. So let's find where that file is. All right. Okay, let's go to, here we are. Data files, dataset 1. Right click here and do properties. Now again, if you're on a Mac, I have no idea how you do this. So I've seen people, there is an equivalent. I was working with somebody yesterday who did a Mac, and there's an equivalent, but that's again, I don't do Mac, so I apologize for you who are Mac owners. That's not my thing. So this is the see where it says location, there's the address. So this is the entire thing is the address. I copy that, go back in here, and where it says address, I replace that. Paste, all right? So now you'll see this is the address for my computer file. Your computer file will be different. It'll have a different location, but it will have an address. The same thing here. I want to save my output file called dataset2.sav. I'm going to right click here and paste. So now I have this new file that'll be opening here and it'll be saved here. So that's step number 1. So that's done. Once that's done, you're pretty much ready to go. Now you can start coding. All right. This assignment requires that you provide the variable labels, the value label, and the variable level for every single variable in the data set. So let's take a look at biological sex. So now this is where you need the code sheet. So the code sheet tells you that males are 0 and females are 1, and that this is a nominal variable. The variable label is participant biological sex. Okay? You don't need to worry about the survey item. This just links it to the survey, which you also have access to. So I give you access to everything. So let's go to the code sheet, or syntax file, syntax file. Now you can name the syntax file whatever you want. You're not able to save it until you put some syntax in here. So now I can save this as whatever I want. So it's syntax, I call it syntax 1. You can call it whatever you want. So let's look at biological sex. The variable label was participant biological sex. Notice how there's a quotation mark here and a quotation mark here. It doesn't matter if you use single or double as long as you're consistent. And you have to have a period at the end of the sentence. Look what happens if I remove this period. The next line loses its beautiful colors. So that means it's not functional anymore. The period will bring it back. I need the value labels. Well, value labels are sex is male. Sex 0 is male, 1 is female. So first I put the variable, and you have to have the variable name in there. If you don't have the variable name, this won't work. 0 is male, male is inside quotation marks. 1 is female, female is inside quotation marks, period. Variable level. Sex. Again, you have to write the variable name, and you write in what it is, nominal, ordinal, or scale. You saw on the data code sheet that everything's provided for you, so you can just fill it in. Okay, so those are the 3 things you need to do for every variable. So it's not really that hard. Let's take a look at an example of a scale variable. We have age. So let's go back to the code sheet. Age, participant age at baseline. Nothing under value labels because this is a scale variable. Of course, you don't have values either. I mean, you have individual, but you don't have any discrete values. And we put in that at scale. So this is one that you can do pretty easily. So you go in here and you write variable labels. Age is participant age at baseline. Again, notice the quotation marks are exactly the same, and the period. Variable level for age is scale. So this one you only need to do 2 things, right? Here's an example of, I actually gave you a lot of this, so all you have to do is finish this, right? I gave you the work for everything. In this case, I did the alcohol variables. So there should be, I think, 2 alcohol variables in here. Let me look at the code sheet. There's alcohol 1 and alcohol 2. So I did alcohol 1 for you. You see, here's the variable label. This is the variable name. This is each of the discrete values, right? The label for each of the values, the value label, and it's ordinal. So I go back into my SPSS command, and I have alcohol. Well, so let's start with variable labels. Alcohol 1. During your lifetime, how many days did you have you had at least 1 drink, not just a sip of alcohol? When I just want to ensure that when somebody else reads this data set that they'll know exactly what I'm measuring. So I just write, sometimes I write the question, and you don't have to do that. You can write whatever you want, but in this assignment, just write what I have there. Value labels, one is 0 days, 2, notice how I do the quotation marks, right? I do all of the values. There's a whole bunch of them. In fact, there's 8, right? Yeah, there's 8 because you got starting at 0 and ending at 7. Have the period there. These are ordinal. So you have to do this for every single variable. So I give you 3 examples. I give you an example of a nominal, a scale, and an ordinal. And then just start adding the next ones. You have to finish the entire thing, okay? I mentioned enter. This was something I was showing you, I believe, in class, so that's why I have it. And then you run it. Now, this is going to be interesting in the run because I have the data set already open. So we're going to make sure that everything's okay first. I'm going to do a run. So one thing that will happen is since the data set's already open, I'll get an error telling me that it's already open, which I can ignore. To run the data set, you highlight everything. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can run by going to run and say run all. Don't get too used to this because sometimes you're not going to want to run everything. But anytime so we're creating a new data set called dataset 2. Anytime I do that, then I want to run everything that's creating that data set. I don't have to start my syntax here. I can start it here. This is a comment. Comments in SPSS start with an asterisk and they end with a period, and they appear in this grayish color. So that's irrelevant, so I'm just going to go ahead and run this, and I should get an error, at least one error message. And let's see. Okay, it says document is already in use by another user. That's what I wanted to see, so it's good. And here's my, and you'll see that in the output, right? And here's my, this should be my new data set. Yep. And here's, you notice that all of a sudden we have labels for biological sex, the way we stated them. It's nominal. We did age, it's scale. I have the label for the variable label for these. And then for this alcohol variable, I have all this massive code there, right? All right, so that's what you have to do for your assignment. All right? You have to show me the syntax, right? The syntax. So this is the syntax. Okay? That's what I want to see. And the final data set. So the syntax, this is the syntax. And the data set is data set 2. So I need to see both of those. They have to be uploaded onto Canvas. All right. Thank you very much.